Attention now to the matter of energy, specifically the PNP's plans for the sector. The opposition leader, Mark Golding, has said that the fact that the renewable sources are not being used to power more of the country's energy needs is a direct failure of the Holness administration. Golding made the argument while addressing supporters at a spot meeting at Independence Park in Savannah Lamar in central Westmoreland on Wednesday.
In 9 years, they have done nothing to move the needle forward, except for one RFP that finally went out just the other day. But they had 9 years and they did nothing. We are committed to bringing down the price of electricity by expanding investment in renewable energy, solar, wind, waste energy, hydro, whatever it may be. Phillip Paulwell is on the case and he's working hard. And he's going to deliver for Jamaica like he did before when it came to telecoms, where he smashed the monopoly of cable and wireless and brought cellular phone into Jamaica with more than one provider. And Jamaica was ahead of the game at that time.
Mark Golding there, the opposition leader.
Joining us to discuss further is the opposition spokesman on energy himself, Phillip Paulwell. Good afternoon, Sir Paulwell.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Hi,
Paulwell.
good afternoon to you and to your listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you too.
So, I think this is one topic a lot of Jamaicans would agree on, that Jamaica's energy prices are significantly higher, and I think if we could tackle that in a meaningful way, that could really be a game changer for the country. So let me ask you, Mr. Powell, what do you see as the fault now on the Holness administration, and what would you do differently?
Well, I just believe that the government dropped the ball in 2016 when we had established policies and projects to take us much further than where we are today. In fact, when we left office in 2016, because of the work that we had done in diversifying energy sources, our price had moved from about 40 US cents per kilowatt hour to about 23, 26 cents averaging at that time. Today, the price is back up. Sometimes if you check your bills when you get them, it's between 40 and I've seen bills up to 50 US cents per kilowatt hour, which makes Jamaica one of the most expensive destinations, not only for energy, but for all of our productive enterprises. Energy is by far the most important element, and the reason why we haven't seen growth in the economy. So in both ways, it affects us, the consumer at home, because the price of electricity at home is too expensive, and very importantly, our producers, whether you're involved in the production of goods or in services, Jamaica cannot compete.
But Mr. Powell, I wonder, because I recall during that same period of time, wasn't there a significant reduction in the price of oil and other energy products because of a crash in the market at the time?
The price of oil has fluctuated to and fro. I attributed the success of our administration to the dramatic shift from in 2013, we were generating electricity using about 95% heavy fuel oil and diesel. By the time we got to 2016, with all that was in place, and today we see now LNG is generating about 60% of the electricity needs of the country. But we did leave in place a plan to transform Jamaica. We had started with the Wigton Wind Farm, and we had expanded it to the single largest solar plant in Jamaica at the time, and Clarendon. We expanded Wigton twice, and we also put in place another wind farm in St. Elizabeth. But for us to get to 50%, and since 2016, the JLP government has set a target of 50% renewables by 2030. We are not going to achieve that because of the slow pace at which, in fact, as the leader of the opposition has mentioned, nothing has happened in this 9-year period, save and except for an RFP, which the government belatedly put in place. If we had done all of the transformation using solar, our price of electricity today would be a fraction of what it is now.
And what do you credit, what do you put down to that slow pace? What do you think is causing that?
Yes. Well, we have had about 4 energy ministers in the period. You know that there were some major issues with energy and the government. So there wasn't the focus that was necessary. The review of the electricity law, which we passed in 2015, and which review was later to take place by 2020, it is just now being done in 2025. So I believe that the government really did not continue the work and did not see the importance of energy in this whole growth milieu. I think they are recognizing that now, but it's far too late. We have a plan that is going to dramatically and radically change energy in Jamaica, especially in the electric side, for good.
And how does the plan that that you have, and we hope to get more, are you hearing me, Mr. Powell?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Yes, I'm saying, how does the plan that you have, and you hope to get more details, how does that speed up the sort of expansion that you're talking about this afternoon?
Okay, well, our plan is to recognize the dramatic improvement in technology and the lowering of cost for solar energy, which has happened in the last 5 years. The government recently, and I'm just giving an example of where the price is at. No, the government recently, and I said belatedly, went to the market by way of a competitive bidding system. And they got, for, in one case, 50 megawatts, a price of below 7 US cents per kilowatt hour. That is what solar is generating at today. So if we had done this 5 years ago, the country would have benefited a lot better than we have now. And when we get to office, we're not only going to put in this 100 megawatts, which won't happen for another 15 or so months, but we're going to double that immediately to procure another 100 to enhance what is there. We're going to be using solar in a way that is going to enable Jamaican residents using their rooftop to not only generate for themselves, but also to be able to distribute to the grid in a massive expansion of the use of solar. We have a plan that is going to reduce the cost of electricity just by this effort by 20%, because today, when you pay for your electricity, you're paying not only for your use, but for those who steal electricity. And for the last 3 years, we have put to the Parliament a proposal for debate. It has not happened, but we are going to make it happen because, again, we are going to be able to use solar technology. The most amazing aspect of that has been storage. For the early days of renewables, the problem has been that it is intermittent. So the sun comes up 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it goes down 4:35, and then there is no electricity. Today, with the ability of battery technology, you can now do almost 24/7 renewables, solar, with a price that is far less than using heavy fuel oil and diesel.
We're up on a break, Mr. Paulwell, but I would like to come back to you and talk about financing of these projects. So please stay with us.
Compiling the plan that the People's National Party has for energy, have you considered whether there is any kind of widespread appetite for the utilization of solar energy? Because, for example, I know the costing can be a huge burden. I think the cheapest one I saw was something like $19,000, and then there was the matter of maintenance. So how do we cross that hurdle?
Well, in the last 5 years, I can go back to the time when I put in place a solar system at my home. The price was very prohibitive. Today, the price of panels and the technology for panels, that has fallen dramatically. The price of inverters, that has gone down as well. but the most dramatic reduction in prices has been that of storage, batteries. So once you promote it properly and effectively, and once you put in the incentives, that is, to encourage people to generate for themselves, but also to generate more than they need to sell to the grid, I think there will be sufficient encouragement incentives for it to make financial sense. People's electricity will be reduced by at least 50%.
What do those incentives look like?
Well, I'm explaining that when you sell whatever you produce that is in excess of what you need, the JPSCO will have to pay you for that. And we'll have to ensure that a pricing formula exists that is going to encourage people towards it. But notwithstanding, just by your taking in the initiative to install for yourself solar power will enable you to cut your electricity bill at home substantially now. One of the things that we are pushing is to enable those persons who are involved in export manufacturing and services, those in exclusive economic zones, for them to be able to generate their own electricity using solar as well. It is going to enable a dramatic reduction in the price of electricity.
I hear you, Mr. Paulwell, but
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to do a
It sounds
costing.
easy.
I tried to do a costing for solar panels for my little 2-bedroom recently, and I was looking at something that's in excess of $100,000. And I mean, I really had to balance that with other things like mortgages, electricity bill as it stands now, food, and I have to say, well, I mean, even if we were looking at gains in the long term, the upfront cost was just was not feasible for me. How would the government tackle that?
I didn't finish the point. Because just before the break, you asked me about funding. And one of the reasons why we had established a hedge fund that has been misused to date is to enable us to do this transformation, this diversification. So we collect $2 billion per annum that will go towards providing low-cost loans, and in some cases, as we pursue the reduction of electricity theft. Grants, there's no reason why we could not initiate a plan to establish mini stations in communities where people can connect and to rid ourselves of this horrendous cost. We, as persons who pay electricity, pay for electricity now, between 17 and 20% of that bill is the cause of electricity theft. And I believe it more than warrants using the hedge money for that. Plus, in this day and age of climate change and with all the green funds that exist, we have already done the investigation, and we are aware that there are international bodies that will enable the provision of funding once we can show that what we're using it for is to lower the amount of carbon that is generated through the use of fossil fuels.
So you're talking about the SCT that is currently used, the SCT collected from the fuel tax, essentially.
No. You have SCT plus you have this fuel tax. We refer to it as a hedge fund tax. That's a separate tax, you know.
But isn't it an expansion of the existing SCT?
No. It's a separate tax that was put in place to enable us to use that money to transform our use of energy that has never been used for that purpose. We believe it needs to be redirected because the overall benefit to the country will be significant. You're going to be lowering your oil bill. You're going to be lowering the electricity bill. You're going to be making your productive sector that much more efficient.
So what is your understanding as to where that hedge money, as you put it, currently goes? Because
it's in the general pool of funds. So it's a matter of earmarking. It's a matter of prioritizing. If we say that we have to pivot to growth, there's no better way to achieve growth in Jamaica than by lowering the cost of energy.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Paulwell, should you become the energy minister, this wouldn't be your first rodeo. It wouldn't be your first time holding the post. I want you
Right.
to tell Jamaicans, explain to them this afternoon, why they should have confidence that you are the
Yes.
best person for the job, considering in the
Right.
past when you did hold the portfolio, it was dogged by significant controversies.
Well, it is interesting you say that because one of the major efforts that we have to do now as we get into office is to deal with the JPS license. I dealt with a license some time ago. That was the cable and wireless license, which saw the tremendous, the almost revolution that took place with telecommunications. And I think even you will admit that that was a major success. We
Absolutely.
have to we have to now look at the JPS license, and we only have until July of this year to signal to JPS what the government intends to do. Unlike the cable and wireless license that had 50 years, we have 2 years to go. A lot can be achieved by the renegotiation of this license, plus the track record that I have since 2012, when we moved from 90% fossil fuel, heavy fuel oil and diesel, to 60% natural gas, which many people saw was amazing, while at the same time establishing Wigton Wind Farm 1, 2, and 3, and the solar project Content and the other wind farm. I believe the track record is quite, even if I'm trying to be immodest, it's quite impressive. And
To the point
I
that it
think,
outweighs the controversies. Sultria, the Cuban
of
light
course.
bulb scandal, the cement fiasco, net serve.
Well, you can go back to 50 years ago. I'm telling you what was achieved in 2012 to 2016, and that is admirable. We
So you
left the
don't think
price
the
of
Jamaican
electricity
people should
at
consider what
20
happened before
at-
2012?
well, of course, and that is the telecoms revolution, where we brought in digital, the price of electricity, of telecommunications came down. Jamaica was the leading country in the Caribbean. Those achievements are a badge of honor.
But I mean, in the balance of things, though, as we have both agree, energy seems to be the one driving force that over the past few decades we have not been able to solve. Because in my living memory, I can't remember a time when I felt that my light bill was reasonable
Well,
comparative to our
unless you
neighbors.
can't recall what happened in 2016, as I mentioned to you, and you can check the records, when we left office, the price had fallen from 40 US cents to between 23 and 26. That, to me, is a mighty achievement. We
So why did
investigate the
that not
price of
translate to
electricity.
people's electricity and light bills, though, Mr. Paul? Because I
Well,
don't think any Jamaican would say, "Wait, when did I ever receive a 20?" Because that's a 20 to 30% reduction in my light bill. I don't think any Jamaican can reasonably say they felt that.
Well, I can tell you what it was in 2016. I can tell you what it is today. The price of electricity is one of the main reasons why people are expressing disappointment with this government. The fact that there is widespread suffering, the fact that they can't afford basic food is because of the price of electricity. It is at its highest, and it is going to mount even greater if we do not do something about it. And we do have a solution, as I did with telecommunications. So today you can get free Wi-Fi in communities.
Phillip Paulwell is the opposition spokesman on energy. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate